This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Timothy's Immortal. How
Oh
you feeling,
yes,
bud?
a little hungover. Kind of
You're a
went
little
went
roughy, aren't
went
you?
went
Now,
for
why
it
would you
last
be
night.
hungover, my friend?
Well, it's because we were performing last night and celebrating the performance afterwards at the Music Hall of Williamsburg, opening up for uh, Princess Goes, and
That would be murderous again. You, me, and
yes,
Matt Nelson. I think it
yes,
was a rather stellar performance.
absolutely, absolutely. It was
A lot of
fun.
fun.
Yes, 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 it was.
A more unlikely coupling of musical styles I could not imagine, but I was quite impressed that they had, unlike so many others, the balls to have us in any format that we choose
I know.
to play with them. And I'm calling out some of my so-called good friends that are too goddamn chicken shit to put us on the motherfucking bill. Just saying nothing.
Yeah, well, and having that big house system and I don't know, kind of spooky vibe that we
We
brought to
were
the room.
spooky.
Oh
We were
yes.
satanic
Oh
to the
yes.
highest and lowest order, if we must.
For
And then
sure.
we had a little after party.
A little after party,
I never phased by those things. I'm always spunky and raring to go.
Yes, you are. I mean,
I don't know how I do it,
I
but I do it. It just happens
I mean, also I
sometimes.
wanted to let loose. I just got over COVID, so I wanted to
Yeah,
enjoy myself a little bit.
of course. You had to. So, the weather, we might be having the only decent weather because I do love it when it's a bit cooler than everywhere
Oh
else. I mean,
yes.
we're in like a low 70, although it is humid as fuck. And if you can see my shiny skin, which is not
You're
leathery, but
sweating. You're sweating.
well, I'm always hot. You know me. I can't help it. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, I mean,
Can't do
it's this tropical storm. I guess it's just kind of it'll be like this
no,
for a
it's
few
gonna
days.
be
Kind of
it's
rain.
it's hitting. Supposedly, this is gonna be one of the worst storm seasons of
Well, I
this or
mean,
any century.
we are having the earliest hurricanes this year. I mean, it's just
How many
the
freaking tornadoes? There are like 483 tornadoes already.
nothing
Buffalo just
fuels.
had a tornado.
I
I
heard
never
about
heard
that.
that
Yeah,
one before.
nothing fuels storms like warm water, and
Exactly.
that shit
Nothing.
is not cooling down.
Exactly. Well, and speaking of weather conditions, I don't know if we talked about this last week or not,
Mm.
because I back up my stories to be able to spring some of them on you. But some bizarre weather effects that I've never heard of. What about a lightning ball, Tim? You have any idea what that might be? Mm.
A lightning ball.
A lightning ball. And it ain't necessarily what happens when I'm not wearing panties.
Well, I can only guess it's some kind of spin off of a lightning bolt. And it's like a cannonball, lightning cannonball spin off of a lightning bolt. I don't
Very
know.
good. It is a very rare phenomena. And it was first explained by a monk, Gervasi of Canterbury, he described a dark cloud that dropped a bright spherical shape.
Mm.
All right. What about a snow devil?
All right, let me guess. Is it kind of like
I love it. I love
is,
quizzes with you
is
because
it
the man who knows everything, I do occasionally
is it
stump.
is it a snow tornado?
You are, correct. A snow tornado.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. You're
All right.
doing great. You're doing very good. I got to find you. I just lost your beautiful face. There you go. All right. Let's go for another one. Let's see about this. What about blood rain?
All right.
The name of murderous against first
So
and only and unreleased and unrecorded album.
my first hunch would be that it's not actual blood.
True that.
Um, is it some kind of volcanic ash or something like that? Or what?
Well, it's more about rain carrying small sand particles from the desert and
Ah,
it drops down, giving the
okay.
appearance of blood.
All
All
right.
right. Now, this is not hard to guess, but I'm just going to put it out there because if nobody's ever seen one, I haven't except in pictures. It's beautifully horrific. A fire tornado.
I've heard about those. Yeah.
We're not true tornadoes since they don't form or touch a cloud base,
But it's some
but
kind of vacuum effect with the oxygen being sucked up from
yes.
fire or something like that. Yeah.
And it happens worldwide, and it's of course common with wildfires. Right now, how many forest fires are raging in Canada and
Oh boy.
California? An unbelievable amount. Now, I think we must have experienced this having both of us in our collected careers, many trips to the Swiss Alps,
Mhm.
Austria, and Italy in the winter.
Yep.
Ice fog. Mm.
Ooh. You know, I mean, that's yeah. Ice fog can be dangerous. I think because it can
It
just
is. It
like
mostly happens actually in Alaska, but often driving through those snowy mountains, the snowy Alps, dangerous even in summer. It feels like there's an ice fog.
I one time driving through the Swiss Alps. I was coming from Italy and I had to go into Germany, and for whatever reason, I think it had something to do with like the opening up truck lanes for cars. They closed the those giant tunnels that go forever. They closed it and
Oh yeah,
they detoured the cars to go up the mountains, and
yeah,
it was nighttime, but there was a huge overcast. But it was such a magical thing. Once we crossed those clouds, because we are going so
yeah.
high up, suddenly it was just like we are on the other side of the clouds, and it was just like snow-capped mountains and glowing stars. It clear as it was so clear. It was so amazing. It's like
And it's so. I
going
mean,
in a
well,
different
look. I
universe at
mean,
that point.
it's so dangerous and so gorgeous. And come on, it's a sexy mix. All right, you've
Mhm.
heard of course. I don't even know where the expression, but we have to look this up later. Raining cats and dogs. What about raining fish?
Um,
Which happened
hmm.
in Texas a few years ago, but happens mostly
Is
in
that from a
Honduras.
is that from like a tornado sucking things out
Yeah,
of the?
some kind of wind like upswing from the water. But in Honduras, it happens 4 times a year, and it's even celebrated with parades. I guess people are hungry.
Cool,
I know
raining
I'm
fish.
hungry right now. I don't know about you. I'm kind of hungry.
I've seen flying fish before once in the Caribbean. It was that's a
Wonderful.
thing.
Wow.
That's a
How
thing.
fast do they fly?
Well, they're going pretty fucking fast, and they're flying
Do they
kind of.
do they just like repel out of the water or what?
So it's kind of like what's it called? Skipping rocks or whatever. Skipping
Oh
rock.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of like bouncing and then flying with their
Nice.
kind of wing flipper things. I don't know what they and yeah.
All
So
right. What about a white rainbow?
I've never heard of that.
Very, very unique, and no doubt amazing. But it's a rainbow with fog, not rain, and the colors are
Ah,
muted, so it appears that they have a red outer edge. But white rainbows can even appear at night, and then they're called lunar fog
interesting.
bows.
I've seen Northern Lights multiple times, and sometimes usually it's a green or some kind of spectacular color, but sometimes they're white, and that's underwhelming because it just looks like you're looking at clouds.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, what about morning glory clouds? I know they're not psychedelics.
I don't know what are those.
Well, they can reach 620 miles long. And the thing is, they
What?
can happen anywhere in the world, but it's more common or predictable over the southern part of the Gulf of Carpentaria, which I don't even know where that is. But it's a cloud shape that's just like a long tubular cloud with no other clouds around it. It is how it usually happens. Pretty amazing.
Cool.
Anyway, that
Cool.
was just our. We like to do a couple of quizzes every few weeks on the Letty and
Oh
Spin, and
yes.
because I like to check Tim Dahl's encyclopedic knowledge, knowing how often he reads the Farmer's Almanac and the World Almanac.
Well,
I
I mean,
know
in
what you read. I know what you read.
terms of mysteries, and so what's up with this story about RFK Jr. and the dead bear in Central Park?
Oh, what an idiot!
Is that even
I mean,
true? What?
they thought about skinning it, and they decided to just dump it with a disused bicycle. He claims that a woman hit the bear. So he decided
Ah,
instead of a proper burial or proper
mhm.
skinning to just dump it. And this is like 10 years ago. Is that when he was 20?
He's weird.
An idiot.
Yeah.
Oh, they just get dumber by the day.
Yeah.
They really do. Oh,
So
speaking about dumb, I'm sorry. I'm just going to break into this one. Then I'm going to let you have the run.
sure.
Um, did we talk about the Catholic priest who was confessing to cooking crystal meth in the rectory?
No.
Well, they have any number of bad habits, priest, as we all know, including
Sure.
worshiping false gods, putting their fingers up your confirmation dress, smoking
Mhm.
cigars, whiskey, pedophilia, etc. But the Catholic News Agency reported that they actually got to shut this wacko down in Austria, and he was intending to sell the. I mean, there's a big market. I didn't know that there was such a big market in Austria, but I guess everybody wants to give their yayas. And the 38-year-old unidentified priest. I mean, they don't even identify them when they, suck the foreskin off of babies, whatever they do in their spare time. Belongs to the Archdiocese of Warsaw, Poland, actually, and he admitted to producing the illicit drug after his arrest. Well,
Yeah,
we'll see what happens with him. Hey, there's finally a church I might be able to believe in. Oh, that's not my drug of choice. Let's face fact.
Well, you might see stuff if you're on that long enough. People are getting.
Yeah, you might see your face start melting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just no joke.
Your teeth fall out.
Let's see here. A 5-year-old killed in a bounce house. You know what those are?
Oh, yes, I do.
Those little
They're like when you have kiddie parties.
Yeah,
it's like a bouncing big trampoline under a
inside this little. Well, in Maryland, this gust of wind he's the only one in there, so it was really light. Just picked it up and flew it. It was at 20 feet in the air at any given point until it slammed back down to the earth. And
well, now that's a weather phenomenon itself.
Yeah, a bounce. I guess on average, 30 kids die a year on those bounces.
Well, not bad.
Speaking of death,
how many died from gunshots?
Oh, there you go. Steve Uricchio from Connecticut, Danbury, home of the one and only Charles Ives. He's arrested because he disemboweled his father. He basically took a knife and just completely cut out his asshole. And
was he going to eat the liver, or just decided? I mean, look, you want to kill your dad. There are easier ways than gutting him.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to go well for him. I think he also cut out his penis, like his groin, and hacked up his face.
Did he have a valid reason other than dads can often be dicks? I wonder he cut the dick off.
He went quote unquote nuts.
Was he saving any of the parts?
I don't think he knew what he was
just
doing.
Went on a slash and burn.
Yeah.
My dad is dead. A band's name I always liked, but I've never heard them. I know my dad is dead. Did you hear about the shopping cart of body parts up in the Bronx?
No. Oh, no.
And then in somebody's apartment, they found like some hands in a bucket. And then they found they actually have on video of somebody pushing a shopping cart with body part. What are these people thinking? I mean, CCTV, we got them.
Oh my God.
1,713 surveillance cameras in America. So watch it, kids. Crime ain't as fun as it used to.
Speaking of, because I had COVID, but one thing that's going around, which you would think it would have been going around for a while, but I guess they're just talking about it more. Teflon flu. People getting these like flu-like sicknesses from their kind of scraped up Teflon pans. I think they're inhaling like little micro particles of it, and it's crazy.
Aren't we ingesting so many particles? It's amazing. We just haven't turned into a giant Lego.
Do they even really sell Teflon anymore? I don't really see people cooking with that shit.
Look, people buy cheap, there's, of course. I mean, the thing is, so many of the microplastics, which we are being inundated and overwhelmed by, they're in everything. It's not like, and the thing is, organic food packaged in plastic. What the fuck are you doing? I mean, it's just ridiculous. But everything from carpet fibers to everything. I mean, it's filth. What are you going to do? I'm amazed we live as long as we do. Some of us live too long, but whatever. Others die too young. What are you going to do about it? Fantastic guest we have.
Yes.
Chris Mars and August 27th, his new book and his new 240 pages of incredible art. We're featuring the cover of it on the podcast. Just stunningly haunting, gorgeous, kind of grotesque, based on his brother's schizophrenia and a new album. And Chris Mars was originally the drummer for the Replacements. So it's exciting to have him on the show. We have so many, I don't know how many guests now, Tim.
200.
But we're not going to stop. We can't stop.
Yeah,
we will start charging shortly, but start saving your pennies, kids. Well, with no further ado, because I got to go wipe my brow down and have an iced something or other.
Good idea.
Let's just say this is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl doing what we do naturally. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and I'm very excited to have Chris Mars on. Some of you might know him from The Replacements or his incredible artwork. He's a multi-dimensional, multimedia artist, musician who plays just about everything. New album and 240-page book of hallucinatory, unbelievable art. And your book is so beautiful. I can't even believe it. Thanks for being on the show, Chris.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and nice to meet you as well. I've heard a lot about you over the years and never met you, so very cool.
And I've been to Minneapolis a few times. You're in Minneapolis, right?
That's yes, I am. And actually, I just moved. I've been there. I lived there. I'll give my age. I'm 63. And
newbie,
exactly. No, so I lived in Minneapolis my whole life, but then we just moved to a kind of a bedroom community, sort of south of the city, not too far, so we can still access it, and just kind of like a town. Me and my wife would go down and visit county fairs and things like that.
Oh yes.
Like,
sorry. No. So you live closer to St. Paul now?
No, actually, the other way. Yeah,
the other way.
A little bit south of the city.
All right, let's back up on the county fairs for a minute. Now, I, as a fan of dirt bike racing and rodeos, Tim is a fan of hot dog eating competitions.
Well, I've been to the Wisconsin, your neighbor's state fair, and I've said this before. What blew me away as a child, because I was staying with my aunt in Milwaukee, was the 10 cents all you can drink milk stand.
Oh, right. Yeah. At the county fairs. Yeah. I think they had that at the Minnesota State Fair too, the whole time I was growing up. Yep.
I didn't even drink my mother's milk. She fed me Kool-Aid, which explains my condition of life.
As a musician, did you ever see any of these kind of one-hit wonder or whatever rock bands that would come through these state and county fairs? Do you remember any concerts?
God, I didn't really go. Let's see. Probably when I was growing up, like the Eagles, bands like that would come through. I remember we were walking, this was probably just even a few years ago, and Def Leppard, was just blasting from the grandstand. I did actually go see Bob Dylan there at the State Fair once. A friend of mine got some tickets, so that was kind of cool.
And also, not to redirect it or digress too much, but you have your governor was just announced to be the VP running mate. It was an interesting choice. I guess he's got
hope
skills.
Rises to the surface.
I know. It's crazy. I mean, yeah. It's like I woke up today and it's just like it's one of those. We've been having a lot of rain here in the around the city.
It's just starting right now. It's starting right now as we speak. But do tell, a lot of rain. How's the heat?
The heat, the heat and the rain, it's a summer in Minnesota, whatever. But today was one of those picture perfect, like 70 degrees, and it's a just beautiful day. I got out and got a bike ride in or whatever the hell, and then it's like I come back and Waltz is the pick, So here we go. We'll be flung into the spotlight here.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Minneapolis has a few reasons to be in the spotlight. I mean, not only The Replacements, not only Babes in Toyland, not only Amphetamine Reptile. I love Tom Hazelmeyer.
Yep,
and all he's done at his festivals, Grumpy's. Yes. I mean, I've been in and out of the Minneapolis. And sure. I even remember, of course, playing, is it the 7th Street Entry? Oh, that was never a good gig for me. I'm sure you did great there, though.
It was a little bit of a hole in the wall. And I remember one time we were kind of in the middle, sort of mid-career, mid-'80s. And then we decided to do I think 3 nights in a row at the Entry, So it was pretty much the same faces every night, the outer night. But right. It was just packed and hot. And yeah, it's a little bit of a hole, but
did Prince ever sit in with you? Because a lot of Minneapolis musicians, no matter what you played, no matter what the style, at some point he would just show up and jam or do some kind of weird.
Want to use your equipment? I refused him in DC once. I'm like, I don't have 3 hours to kill. I got to get back to New York. But did he ever bum rush your show?
Yeah, no, nothing like that really. But there were a lot of cool sort of impromptu things that he would do around town, either at Paisley Park, and you just do it at the spur of the moment, and people would rush down there. So there were a lot of those gigs when at the height of Purple Rain and all that stuff, and then he's playing at First Avenue, and then he gets have a few ins, get down there and see him. Those were probably, I mean, I guess I wasn't on board with Prince, right. Up until that point. It's like I just didn't really listen to him. I know he's a big deal, and then I saw Purple Rain, and right around then I started getting tickets. Hey man, you should really come down and see him. And then when I did, then I got it, and it's like, holy fuck, yeah, this guy's he's amazing. So
Tim, I want to go back to something you said a while ago about one-hit wonders, because I just got back from my spoken word tour of the UK. It was fantastic. And on the plane, because there wasn't much choice, you were asking about one-hit wonders. And I saw this film just because it had Casey Affleck. I got a small fetish, and it's called Dreaming Wild. And it was about it's a true story about these two brothers. One was 15, 16, who had one album in the 70s that went nowhere. The dad, hostage the farm for it, hundreds of records in the garage. And then decades later, somebody finds this record, and it becomes really, effective again. And the actual guy, Donnie Emerson, and his brother, then the film, Casey Affleck plays the guy, and of course it's going back and forth between a 15-year-old writing songs that are pretty kind of romantic, mystical. I have to say, it was kind of, you're on a plane, you'll watch anything. But that was one hit wonder. Their album cover was like, they looked like they were in the Osmonds, or they were on a farm somewhere. And it was just, so they called Donnie Emerson, who had like a small revival after somebody buying the album in a thrift shop and said, this is great, especially from, a 15-year-old. Speaking about 15-year-olds, when did you start playing instruments, Chris? Because you basically, you play almost everything except for the tuba. I'm still waiting for a tuba player.
Yeah, right. Except for the samples that I can find and dig out. I guess I still play them, but is it really playing? I don't know. But
it's creative.
It's yeah. The technology allows for a lot of cover up there, but. When I started, I was very influenced. I had a pretty musical family as far as my siblings. Nobody was in a band or anything like that, but very interested in music. I had a brother that was subscribed to Rolling Stone magazine, so he was always up on the latest stuff, and so he'd clue me into this or that, and then he'd be always playing records. And he was a big Who fan, and so I loved Keith Moon, and so there was a lot of those 70s. It was a great time in music. If you think. I was born in 61, and then you go through the 60s and that first half of the 70s. It's like, woo, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, me too.
And so, a lot of influence, a lot of inspiration to want to play. And, and then there was a band down the block, the Churchill family, they were called, and they would play in the basement from time to time, and you'd hear the rumble. And the kids were, it's a boring summer day, and you're hanging out with your friends down South Minneapolis, and all of a sudden you hear this rumble, and all the kids run over. And then I remember looking down the basement window, right below in the basement were the drums. And then you could kind of smell the sweat and the summer and the smell of the electricity and the amps.
The smell of the basement, which I always love the smell of the basement.
Exactly.
Love the smell of basements.
Mildew mixed with electricity,
Dirt,
it's so interesting about just perception in general, and how a lot of perception is based on
olfactory.
No, it's reaction. The reaction from the place you're in. So, a boring summer, those don't even exist anymore. Like boredom is like, it doesn't exist. So it's all relative. Like
it's the luxury of youth.
You're looking out the window. You don't have a phone. You're not
smelling
you're
the
looking out the window,
grass,
waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
so you saw the drums.
A blast of music comes, and it's like,
and there's drums.
That's a thrill.
And there's drums, and you're like, that's for me.
Exactly. And then, like, if it was today, the kids would say, what's that sound? What's that rumble? And then they go back to their phone, right? And
they put their headphones on.
Did you see that photograph that's going around of the Olympics where Mick Jagger's sitting in the bleachers, swarmed by all these people, all these young people, and they're all looking at their phone. They have no idea. They have no idea that Mick Jagger's next to them.
Who wants to look at him now anyway? I'm just saying. But,
and then they see Mick Jagger in the stands, and then instead of looking at him, they say, "Look at Mick Jagger on my phone."
And and by the way, I'd rather watch a gymnast in a tight leotard defying gravity than an old man whose face has fallen to gravity.
Roar. Well, no, but Chris, that's an interesting point, because all the time, say you're on Google Maps and I experience with everyone. You're driving, you're trying to find a destination, and they're on their screen looking at it going, I think it's coming up. It's coming up soon. It's like, yeah, if you put your Head up. It's right there.
There's a sign.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Chris, I want to go back to you. You mentioned The Who. When I was listening to your new album, and I love the title 7:42 p.m. Is that what it's called?
Oh, the book is called 7:42 p.m.
Oh, 7:42
It's kind of a
p.m.,
book
which I
record release, and then
the album is called The Average Album.
yeah, you got it.
Average.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I had an album that had, numerical madness. I love anything with numbers. I'm obsessed with numbers.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
But
Glennis McCants.
when I was listening to your album, I was reminded of British influence. I mean, I was kind of thinking a little Kinks, a little Cockney Rebel, still standing on its own. The songs are great. I mean, it's classic, yet your very own rock. I mean, I'm really a music snob. Tim likes terrible things and great things as well. But I was very impressed with the record. But I'm really impressed with the 240-page book called 7:42 p.m. I just want to, if you don't mind, I'd just like to. This is one of the intros in the book, which I thought was amazing. I'm just going to read a tiny bit of it to kind of define for those that have not seen your absolutely gorgeous, grotesque, beautiful, haunting images. And the book is huge. It's out August 27th. This will a few weeks after this comes out. But I forget who wrote this, but they said that your brother, who had schizophrenia, kind of inspired these paintings in a sense that you're going somewhere so deep inside a hallucinatory nightmare dreamscape. And also that there was this, I got to really find exactly what this is, because this was very impressive to me, that first of all, I also love the title, In Preparation of Barrier Transcendence, one of your books. But how about through these specially created goggles and earphones, a device which mimicked schizophrenia, was at one of these museums, and the experience of this machine left the participants with another kind of feeling of unattachment or vulnerability, as if the walls had been reversed. I just love this concept of being able to, not only through painting, but then extrasensory concepts, take people into another dimension, another realm, which the paintings do without even any explanation. But can you talk to us about that experiment a little bit? Because that's just so fascinating.
So people could basically, there was an exhibition, and that was a part of the exhibition. People would come in, and then they did have the audio and visual. I think there was visual experiments because people put on like a headset. I'm pretty sure it was mostly audio though, but it was just the kind of trying to simulate sort of the brain, the way it fires in a schizophrenic episode, and how overwhelming that can be. And most people, they just couldn't have it on for more than like a minute, was too much. So yeah. And then I think about it was eye-opening for me too, thinking about my brother when he was before he was medicated. So like being a teenager on the onset, which is usually the time of onset is like teenage through like early adulthood, and that was classic for him too. And I just can't, when I think about that, I just can't imagine what he was going through, and
terrifying.
Yeah. So he's not with us anymore, but he definitely left a mark on me, and it just made me think about people that have to deal with certain things that most of us can't even imagine or even get there. So that was quite the experiment.
Did that make you nervous to try things like LSD, because that can things like that can trigger if you have the same DNA, for instance?
Yes. Well, you know what, I did do LSD, for a short time, when I was probably about 16. And I remember the first time I did it with some friends, and we all did it. And I think it was like pink microdot or something like that. And
it was still good when it was still good shit.
When it was still good. Yeah. And so I took it, and it was like it was like, wow, and it was kind of opened my sort of visual sense up, might have tapped into my cortex a little bit there in a way that after I was tried to like draw and do things while I was on it. And I don't know, there was some opening there, which I don't know if it attributes to anything I'm doing now or not, but
it's called the doors of perception.
And it happened, and it was really nice. And then I remember sort of that year trying to do that and get to that state again. and every batch we got sucked, and it was no good. And it just got me a little sped up. There was no cool visuals.
Because it was already over. It was very hard to find good LSD by that point.
Yes. Yep. Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
I mean, I don't think I had good LSD after 1973, and I'm only 2 years older than you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then the next time I said, wow, I just really want to chase that, and it was like probably about, I don't know, 7-8 months later, I wanted that cool feeling again. And a guy at school goes, here, it was pink microdot again. He said, he gave it to me. And he said, but just take one. This is good. I said, oh yeah, right. Just take one.
Oh.
That didn't work last time.
And so then I took two.
Oh boy.
And then I was and then this time it wasn't with anybody else that was taking it. It was with a bunch of friends, or not a bunch of friends, 2 friends that were fighting the whole time.
Oh no.
And it was during the day, the bright sunlight, and I thought I was going to die. It was the worst goddamn experience.
But that's also good to have that experience to realize, hey, you didn't die.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I just remember when I was kind of coming down with, probably took it at like, I think it was 10 o'clock during school. And then I went to class, and then class ends and we get out. I couldn't stay there anymore. So a couple guys skipped with me and we just went walking all over town. And then it wasn't until probably about 10 o'clock that night where it started to melt off. I mean, it was powerful.
Because that stuff used to last a long time, some of it, whether it's good or bad. It could
last. Sometimes you feel like, am I coming back? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, that's terrifying. Did your brother?
But has that made you want to try DMT, DPT, ayahuasca? I mean,
no, it's made me not want to try it.
Understandable.
Well, here's the thing, what I realized during creativity, it can pull me in and suck me in when I'm painting, and my imagination is firing. I think my imagination
very
is
hallucinogenic.
Yeah, and again, it's this Zen thing too. So you get in a different state. You know that when you create, and so like I don't fucking need it. I just don't need it.
So let's talk about, when did you start? Like, did you start drawing before you started with that drum set in the basement, or did you come out drawing? Did you come out with a pencil and your paintbrush in your hand?
Practically. Yeah. When I was a very, very kid, I was born in 61. And then we had I think it was like a 1959 or 1960 version of the Encyclopedia Britannica. And then I remember as a kid, probably even before I could even talk that well, flipping through that book and landing on the painting section. And then I looked through that. I saw those books later, many years later, and I noticed there was these really crude doodles. And it was me as a little kid, probably before I could talk, trying to like draw in the book. And so I was doing that probably before I could do anything. And that always came very natural to me. So during grade school, I would get in trouble a lot by drawing.
Teachers hated doodling. Teachers would always scold kids for doodling all the time. That was like a pet peeve of teachers in general.
I think that in the next Olympics, they're going to have a doodle fest. I mean, they should. They got skateboarding now. They got breaking, whatever, doodles. I don't doodle myself. I mean, I have like one book of semi-doodles, but that was just a cocaine psychosis, I think.
Right. Okay, so what happened? What if we mix doodling with hot dog eating? Maybe there's.
Oh God! Well, I'm gonna hold the joke, but keep on going though. I'm curious. So you're doing doodling, and the teachers.
Yeah. So I'm doing it as a very little kid, but then my skills improve as a small kid in grade school, and then I'd set a book up on the table if I'm supposed to be reading or doing math or whatever the hell it is. So I put the book up to block what I'm doing, and then I'm drawing actually behind the book. And then a lot of times if I didn't have any paper, I'd be drawing on the desks. So I'd get in trouble doing those things. But yeah, it was a thing that came very natural for me, and I wanted to do it all the time. And my parents kind of supported that. They got me stuff to draw with and paper. And so, did
you drop out of school?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Me too. Hell, that was success at last.
10th grade.
Grade? Me too.
Yeah, I tell you. Okay. Yeah. And it's so funny.
Because we knew what we had to do. You had to do it.
Right. And, 10th grade now, that's flashing forward. And that's when the whole damn punk scene is happening now. It's starting to happen, and starting to get the inklings of, the Ramones and the Sex Pistols and that kind of stuff. And, new wave comes a little kind of simultaneous, but changes were happening musically. You could feel it. All my friends wanted to go to, I'd go to Ted Nugent concerts and Aerosmith concerts and all that crap. And whatever
was playing, you go to everything.
Exactly. But then the punk explosion happens. And so that really changed things in school. And, at that time, I I went to a Catholic high school for ninth grade. Then I said all my friends were over to the public school, Minneapolis
I
Central.
went to a Catholic school till sixth grade. I hear you.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so then I said, I didn't like it, and I had to pay my
Who
own
does?
tuition. My parents couldn't pay it, so I was working to try to pay my tuition. I said, yeah, I'm going to go over to
Paying you were working to pay your tuition to go to school as a kid?
Yes, yeah,
Fuck
for
that
ninth,
shit.
for ninth grade. Not grades. Grade school was a lot cheaper. Then when we got into high school, of course, the tuition goes up, and so then that was the it was my
That's a
choice.
good reason to quit. Good
Yeah, so
reason.
I had a group of friends that were going to the Catholic school, and then a group of friends that were going to Central. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to go over to Central after 10th grade or after ninth grade, and then 10th grade I made it to about the middle of it, and I said, yeah.
That's it. Me too. We have a lot in common. That was it. That was just it.
So,
Like,
so you,
how about you? Like in your life now, like can you?
she went back to school. She's going to night school right now.
Well, yeah.
I teach at universities now. The beauty is I now teach at universities. 10th
I
grade
don't want
dropout teaching.
Yeah, you didn't want to be in school unless you could teach.
I am night school.
Yeah, cool. But I mean, as far as some of the things that I wasn't interested in, and then like science and things like that. Maybe if I had different teachers, but I love that shit now. So it's like everything happens in reverse,
Same as me. I bacteria, space exploration,
and
underwater investigation,
and probably the two of you,
shit.
probably the two of you know more. On probably an amateur level, but know more about science than kids who graduated from high school because you went back to it because you genuinely were hungry to know this shit, as opposed to.
I have to say one performance I did, I think I only did like once or twice in Europe. I had 200 images of single cell bacteria, which look like architectural superstructures. Wow. That's how obsessed I can become with like the internals. Operation channel forensics, blood splatter analysis, a different form of science, more like forensic science.
Forensic science, absolutely. But it is incredible where actually that sparks something when I'm creating, and anybody says something about my work like, whoa, that's dark. Man, that's so weird. I always think in my head, like, I can't even come close to matching the weirdness of nature. Like you said, on the microscopic level, especially, there's the weirdest damn things. And then, on and on, you just go like the weird insects.
Well, and how about the things we can't see, which are weirder than all the things we can see?
Yes.
That's also what I'm interested in, is like, there's more things we don't know than we do know. There's more things that we can't see than what we do see. Yeah. I like that realm. And your paintings are kind of the opposite of that, because they are taking us into realms that are almost organically psilocybin based. The acid did you well, my friend. I really recommend this book.
It's that one trip.
Well, no, Chris, I wanted to connect this because with what we're talking about now and what you're talking about 15 minutes ago, how much of an influence was your brother on your art, your music, the visual art? How much did this person influence you? Maybe not directly, but just their existence and the way they saw and heard, for better, for worse, the world and how they interacted with the world. How much did this influence you?
Great question, Tim. And also, how shocking was the difference between not schizophrenic and then 1617 schizophrenic? And I'm going to recommend for people, if they haven't seen it, 7 Brothers, which is about 7 schizophrenic brothers, which is on Netflix. And it's just heartbreaking, actually. One is,
but how much did he?
7. But
how much?
How was it to you? Not schizophrenic, and then did it come in slowly? And how did that change your relationship?
Yeah. So as a small kid, I was definitely, and I'm probably not unique in this sense, but maybe my interpretation of monster movies when I was a very small kid, and the line that ran in my family, we were all into that. So was that a sort of initial way to want to know about what people regard as outside of the norm? Frankenstein, the creature from the Black Lagoon, the Wolfman, all of these different things that were very prevalent in the 60s and were played all, Horror Incorporated. We'd all gather around and watch that. So that was, for me, that was definitely an example, as an attempt to examine an outsider status, I think. And I put that together later on in later years. And whenever I wanted to draw or do things, I was often drawing kind of monstrous things. and and I liked it. It's almost
Beautifully
like
monstrous, gorgeously, hauntingly
well,
monstrous.
exactly, and the word monster shouldn't really even be used. It's like unique, that kind of thing. It's like
Outsider, exactly.
exactly,
Other. That's
outsider,
what we are.
not
We are other.
yes, exactly. And so that connection that I made, when my skills got better and better, and I was able to finally I didn't figure out oil painting until I was 40. So it was after the replacements, and it was like some years after, like another decade after replacement, I was still drawing. I was using a lot of pastels.
Wow, that's very impressive to know
And then,
that. That's
yeah, and so
really,
then, and
it's
finally,
shocking.
I appreciate it. And I saw in a little artist handbook, it was like one little paragraph. This is this thick artist handbook, and in one small little paragraph, it said, try to, because I was failing a lot. I'd pick up oils and I just failed. And I go back to acrylics, I go back to drawing, and I was very, very frustrated. I got very angry. I would break things, my not things around the house, but like my canvases, I'd snap them in half. I was just so mad. Why? How do you do this? How does this? What? I couldn't crack the nut. And then there was a little paragraph, and it said, in the artist handbook, just a small short paragraph said, try varnishing first, and doing all your coating and your varnishing first, and then let it dry, and then paint into the varnish after the fact. And it said you can have interesting results. That's all it said. So I tried it. I tried that, and it was like the whole damn thing blew open. It was just from that little paragraph. It was
because
amazing.
it looks as if you've been painting in this format, which is so multidimensional, not only with the imagery, but the colors and the depth of each painting is so deep that it seems as if you've been doing this since you were 4 years old.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the
technique.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But it was a lot of it is I guess the drawing skills were in place. It was the painting part of it that wasn't. So all of those
oils are difficult. Oils are it's difficult. It's a difficult medium.
Very difficult medium, yeah. And then, but then,
not when you found the secret.
Yeah, when I found the secret, then I was able to maybe apply all of those years of drawing and then mix the two. And then that was
Who were some of your favorite painters? When you were coming up.
Oh man,
when you were coming up, I mean, just in general, now, then, whatever. Who inspired you? I mean, wait, by the way, I saw this title, which I thought was great. I don't know if it's for a painting or a book of yours called Anonymous Botch, which I thought was very clever.
Anonymous Botch. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was the title of one of my solo records that I did. But and also a big influence. Yeah, Hieronymus Bosch, big influence there. And Salvador Dali, a lot of the surrealists going on. I like Francis Bacon.
I love Francis Bacon.
And then I discovered Beksinski from Poland. And H.R. Geiger was in there. I like the Alien, so amazing, back to the monster movies. But he was doing that before Alien. He was doing paintings, obviously, but he got picked to design that film. But so a lot of that stuff, a lot of surrealism, but I think a lot of expressionism too. So like George Grosz and Otto Dix. And so that stuff.
And what about lowbrow? What about lowbrow? Because
well, you're talking about now, which is contemporary.
Now we can go forward.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I've got like Sue Coe, Mark Ryden.
Mark Ryden, one of my favorite. Robert Williams.
Robert Williams, exactly. All of that stuff is very influential too.
I said his name, and the thunder just took off. So maybe he's thinking about us.
Yeah. But and it's interesting when I was in I kind of let all of the drawing and all the visual side go as I was kind of mentioned before, where I can only do one thing at a time. And so when I was in the band, all I could do was really focus on that. I kind of gave that my all, and I kind of pushed the visual side back. But during that period, I noticed some artists popping up like Robert Williams and Sue Coe.
Juxtapose magazine.
Yeah, Juxtapose magazine. I said, God, that's the kind of, I don't know if it's simultaneous ideas that happen in the ether, and that everybody's reacting to the same things in society, or
collective consciousness.
Yeah, exactly. That common consciousness that's what's going on.
Well, and also just about lowbrow art for a minute. The thing about it, all the artists that we named, I mean, they have a really accomplished technical skill, and then it's also this beautiful weirdness. All of them have something haunting, mysterious, or with Robert Williams, just the writing is what is so freaking incredible. There's So, but they all have, it's this certain skill level that's just kind of amazing when you look at the history of all of what was in Juxtapose.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what I gravitated to, because I was hungry for that too. And it's that return to craftsmanship where I think that was poo-pooed, and like whatever the sort of the progression of the art world, and going from, going into the minimalists, and then breaking apart everything to just little components of what art is, and being very minimal, to where then it gets to the point where there's a metal bar.
Please stop it. Exactly. Don't give me a painting that has 2 fucking blocks of color on it. And I'm saying, I know what Jackson Pollock did, but I don't want to look at those kind of paintings. I just don't. I know how he broke with tradition, but that's not what I want to see.
I like him.
I want to see something more else, different, hallucinogenic.
I like those guys, but anyhow.
And I do not.
But I love Caravaggio. That's one of my favorites. And Goya. I mean,
oh my God, Goya. Yeah. Whew.
I mean, capricious. I mean, please.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I sort of didn't. There were certain things that I didn't. I liked Francis Bacon, but I liked him a hell of a lot more when I actually saw one of his shows, and I realized what a colorist he was. Like, in person, the books don't do it justice.
Also, the size, the scale is always a big factor with these things. I mean, for Pollock, I was kind of like with Lydia on that one. I was like, but when I actually saw the scale, I was like, okay, this is pretty insane. So we're actually doing chronological in reverse. So you're doing this when you left the Replacements.
Well, first of all, let's go.
Hold on. No, we're going to do reverse. So you leave the Replacements immediately. Do you go, I'm going to paint now, I'm going to do art now? Or was there a limbo before that?
There was a bit of a limbo. I think after, being in the Replacements, I think our roles were kind of cast. And, Tommy, as time goes on and you get older and you mature a little bit into the band as much as you can, because it's a delayed maturation anyway.
Wait a second, maturing. What about your clown alter ego? What about stink bombs at the show? What about going to jail for like playing chicken with a cop? Wait, you said the word mature? I have to argue, but I know this much about you.
Yes. Yeah. All of a delayed maturity. The band was a good excuse to avoid growing up. But as much as we weren't growing up emotionally, there was artistic things that we were growing into. And then I think what happens in a band, probably any band, is that you start out doing one thing and you're in a role, and then that kind of casts the die. The die is cast in that sense. But then as time goes on, you're hungry to do something else. And I think Tommy was, and I was, and Bobby and Paul. And so basically, the progression is that you want to do more than just your instrument. And so there was a lot of maybe there was a time when I think me and Tommy introduced some songs that we had been writing towards the end of the band, but it wasn't really accepted. And I get that. It's fine, because the die is cast. So I was constipated by the time the band ended. I had a lot of the songs. I didn't know what I was going to do, so I just started recording these songs on demo tapes and sending them around. And it's like it was out of my wildest dreams I got signed. It's like I didn't expect that to happen at all.
Okay, and wait a minute. What about this little fact of prankterism? That you one of your albums, you recorded it, but you didn't want to go on tour, so a band went on tour, did the music, and had a cardboard cutout of you. Damn, why didn't I think of that? I mean,
that's
the pranksterism, my friend, the pranksterism, I do respect.
I mean, when you left the band, because I read, because I never saw you guys when you were like the insane maniac.
I never saw you either.
The same maniac era. I mean, by the time because I'm younger, by the time I saw you guys, I think you were out of the band at that point, and then it was more mainstream suddenly. But where the earlier shows were notorious for just being just complete mania and insanity, wild
naughty.
We were there's maybe the self-destructive nature of punk in general. The attitude of punk never left us, even though the record company wanted us to go somewhere else, and maybe we were trying to fit our round.
Well, the Replacements got pretty big. I mean, which has to be shocking, even when you're in your clown makeup and having stink bombs. I mean, was it like, oh yeah, of course this is going to happen, or was it just, okay, this is a fluke? How did that feel to you? I mean, suddenly you're pretty fucking big.
the thing is when you start out, you're just trying to stay out of trouble. You're
Or cause it, or
Minneapolis
cause it.
or cause it. Well, exactly. But maybe it's a little bit better trouble. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. But
Finesse the trouble. Finesse the trouble.
At least there's a creative intent and some sort of focus to just working in a factory and getting in trouble on the street. So hey, now we're off the street. We're in a basement. And now we can kind of, compile our efforts and our drive to want to escape something, and so, but do you know where it's going to go? Hell no. We're just having fun. We're just playing. But then, I guess there was enough talent there to where things start to come together. And then you start to get better and you start to improve and you play more, one show after another, 1 year after another. And you'll find yourself, oh my God, I can fucking play now. It's like, oh.
Did you tour a lot? What was your big touring period?
Yeah, very, very extensively from pretty solid 1980 to 1990, right in there.
Yeah. And that's what does it. That's what helps get the word
out.
Yeah,
you can't help but get a little bit better for year after year.
We're all road dogs. We love to be on the road.
Yeah,
I mean, we still are on the road, Tim and I.
So drop out of school and go to a different school.
Right? Tell me
about teach school. They're going to be taught in schools.
Yes.
Tell me about one or two shows. Not necessarily musically, but just the whole room, the collective experience with the audience, something that stands in your mind as an insane memory, just insanity.
And who might have been on the bill too.
Yeah. And who else was on the bill and where were you?
Okay. So I think as far as us, I don't know, I can't remember who warmed us up, but we were headlining. I can sort of think of a couple places where we were the kind of band none of us knew whether it was going to be a shitty night, and a drunk night, or maybe you could kind of tell if people started drinking at 10 in the morning. Okay, it's not going to be a very good night tonight, and maybe I was the only one, or maybe a couple of it didn't matter. Sometimes we weren't all together on that. It's he's starting early. It's going to be a funny.
Well, somebody's got to drive.
yeah. So, but then there were those shows that were disasters, absolute disasters, and people talk about those. But then we had the ability to have really, really good shows, and where every fucking thing clicked, at least from what I heard from where I was sitting. But in particular, we were playing in Madison, Wisconsin. And it was a packed crowd. And it was kind of towards the end of a tour. And we just clicked that night. And there was just weird things happening. Like, Paul threw a full bottle of beer at Bob, and it was like almost full. And Bob just in the middle of a lead, just caught it and guzzled it, and then threw it down and finished his lead. I mean, just like it was almost like a circus routine or something.
Right.
And I saw weird things like that happen. Like, whoa, he caught that. It was almost like catching a fly ball at a baseball game, and you can't believe it's in your mitt or something like that. But so there was nights like that. And then I remember Chicago, and I think it depended sometimes on the receptiveness of the audience and the fun the audience was having. And so in Chicago was always a great, fun place to play. New York was really, really fun too. Some great shows there. So in particular, there was a couple shows like that just stand out as, wow, everything really fucking happened well that night. And so there were those really on shows, and the problem was we just never know what we didn't know what we were going to get.
and you know what you were going to do. And with any bands you really liked playing with, like, oh yeah.
Or ones that I want two-part question. Ones you really didn't like
didn't like play with. Yeah. The shows X, we warmed up for X, and we did.
What year was that?
Oh God, that would have had probably been like when we just before we got signed. So probably 1984, right around.
Really good. X were amazing. I'm goosebump material. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was so fun watching those guys. Billy Zoom just standing there, like a statue,
smiling, weird. Yeah, one of the weirdest guys in rock because he's the most normal.
Yeah. Crazy, wild leads, just like a statue, just looking around.
Yeah,
it's like a machine or something. But very, very.
What
fun
charisma though? I mean, between Exene and John Doe, I mean, it was breathtaking at that.
It really was. Great drummer too.
First two albums are so good. DJ. Oh yeah, really good.
Absolutely.
So,
I think DJ made me want to get better because I remember warming up and he would come on stage and like, holy shit, man, this guy's really, really good. I gotta fucking try a little harder, So, but yeah, you get inspired.
Yeah. Hey, was there any band that really just pissed you off, or you guys maybe you were in the wrong, you guys were drunk, but there was some kind of headbutting or something like that?
No, I think was it the Butthole Surfers? I don't think it was the Butthole Surfers. No, and we like the Butthole Surfers, but
oh yeah,
I think
everyone's drunk or something.
Yeah, I think they warmed us up, and I think it was in New Jersey or something like that. And then I think we were kind of dicks, because we had a reputation as being assholes too. Sometimes, we're not all the time, but sometimes. But and I think
Hey, it's rock and roll, baby. That it happens. Some,
so
please.
yeah, we might have treated some people wrong and then got shit stolen, from us. It's like, hey, you come backstage and all your suitcase is gone or whatever the fuck.
Well, being dicks. I mean, that was a word that like it would be like, say, Laurel Canyon, some kind of party in L.A. back in the late '60s. Everyone's had a good time, and then Jim Morrison shows up and throws someone down the steps, and everyone's like, "What? Like, why'd you do that? the party's over."
Charles Manson shows up and murders a whole group of people. You never know what's going to happen. There's no murder on our hands.
No, at least we didn't have any.
That will admit to.
Did you feel like the productions of the later albums and replacements represented the band properly?
Not the later ones,
right?
I think for us, when Bob Stinson was in the band from the beginning up until about 1985, and then I think 1986, Bob left the band. And it was never quite the same after that. And then I think in the studio or on stage, there was something missing for me. I was the kind of drummer. I remember reading an interview with Charlie Watts and how he said he never played with the bass guitar. He played with the guitar. So he was always listening to Keith Richards and kind of reacting off of that. I started out playing before any of the other guys with Bob Stinson. And so there was a chemistry that we had together. I always played off of the sound. His amp was always closest to me. And so I would play with him. I could hardly even hear the bass. And I was always, and he had a great sense of rhythm, Bob.
Well, that's the thing. Rhythm guitar is almost a lost art form. I mean, it's I always like Phelps Collins, Bootsy Collins' older brother, who got him the James Brown gig, who was a guitar player. And the rhythm guitar players like that, they're almost like bass players, but an octave higher. I mean, they're just grooving along, and people kind of, I feel like it's a bit of a lost art form in a weird way.
Yeah, let's get back to the new album for a minute, Chris, because it's very impressive. Like I said, it had some kind of just subconscious, unconscious, referential, kind of a British vibe without being a British copy. But I did feel like a little Kinks, a little Cockney Rebel, just maybe because of the craft of the songwriting, that the songs are coherent as a whole, catchy, but still diverse. So I'm very impressed with that.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, and probably a lot of those early influences come back. I think what happened, the progression of going through the band, having a very intense 10 years, having it fall apart, the dream goes away. You don't know what you're going to do. I have this other thing to fall back on, but then I have also a lot of sort of, music in me that I kind of want to get out that I couldn't really in the band. And so
it doesn't sound derivative at all. It just, you hear, and maybe because I miss that flavor. Like if I hear anything that sounds a little bit like Cockney Rebel or a little bit, it's not, there's no glam in it, but there's just something there that reminds me of that period when albums were really good.
I appreciate that.
Your album is really good.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. And I do think, again, those early things, probably with painting and music, growing up in the 60s and hearing a lot of that stuff, and having my siblings play a lot of those records, it's probably one of the earliest things that gets imprinted. So I think a lot of that sort of, British invasion.
Just a flavor. It's just like
formative
a flavor.
Experiences.
It's a flavor in there. It's a
Did
bit
you
of a
ever
flavor.
Did you ever see the Who in the 70s with those extremely loud shows?
I did. It was actually, I was, when I was in De La Salle for my 9th grade, me and a couple of friends we were too young to go to the show ourselves. So we went with some older kids, and we were able to go to the Civic Center, which was in St. Paul, Minnesota, just our neighboring city. And it was funny because it was supposed to be on a Friday night. We were all ready to go. And then we heard the show was canceled, and it got pushed to Sunday afternoon, kind of. It was a weird thing. And it was because Keith Moon wasn't up for the show. They basically said exhaustion is what they said. That was the
fucked up on drugs and alcohol.
He hadn't slept in 5 days, and he needed to sleep for 2 days.
400 groupies, in the back of the truck, whatever.
Exactly. So we went, but it was my first major concert actually was the Who. And my brother had seen him here.
Phenomenal.
My brother was a big Who fan. He saw him probably 3 years before that. And he said, "Oh man, at the end, the guitars got smashed and the drums got ruined, thrown around. It was chaos.
They hated each other.
Yeah. And so I was ready to see that, but we had seats behind the stage. So again, there I am behind Keith Moon. I could see everything he was
But
doing.
you were probably blasted less because you didn't have the direct impact of those amps, which were the loudest shows ever.
For better or for worse, it was a
might have gone deaf.
Yeah.
Might have gone deaf.
Was that didn't happen to be the same tour where there's a Cincinnati audience trampling?
That came later. Yeah, that was
later.
probably about maybe 3 years later, I think.
Okay.
So Chris, from drums, but then what? Just like, okay, replacements are over. What am I going to do? You start doing some solo records. How do you eventually just pick up all of the instruments? Because you seem to be playing on some of your solo records everything. So what came after the drums?
Yeah, so during the replacements, again, I was hungry to do other things beyond my instrument. So in between tours, I would pick up a guitar and I'd try to, play. And then I started, hey, I can kind of put some things together, to my surprise, And so it was very rudimentary, very just bar chords and things like that. But I learned how to get my fingers in place and play it. Yeah. And so guitar, I got better and better at that. And then I remembered, I think it was during Pleased to Meet Me, I was allowed to play one little part. One of the guys couldn't get it. And so I go, no, it was a rhythm thing. And so I said, well, give me the guitar, I'll try it. And so then I did it. And then I just knew where my role was. So I could kind of do this little sort of shotgun thing on the guitar. And I remember, wow, that was fucking fun. I want to do that again. I want to go into a studio and I want to play the guitar. So I was very hungry again to do that. So I could play the guitar, but when I was able to go do a solo record, I was just completely scared out of my mind. I was especially intimidated by the bass guitar. So I did have somebody come in and play bass guitar. But
you're writing songs, so you're not writing them on the drums. You must be writing them on what? What are you writing?
On a little 4-track. I had, kind of experimenting with some multi-track things there. Yeah, just a little cassette.
And play on the guitar.
And on the guitar, yeah. So trying to record some rudimentary drums, and then just pretty bad quality, but enough to get.
Are you playing everything on your new album, or is there any other players on that?
I do have one friend of mine who's does some.
You don't need any more, actually. What do they play?
He's playing lead guitar. Another friend of mine that I've known. He ran a computer repair shop for years, and just a good guitar player, And he's been in a few bands here and there, and about my age. And I said, hey, do you want to play on some stuff? And everything is done through the internet. Send him a file. He plays it and sends it back.
That's how we like to do it sometimes.
So weird now.
It's convenient. Man. It happens. It works. That's what happens.
And the quality is good too.
Can't be everywhere at once.
Right. So what do you think about? Because you love Keith Moon and you like to get wild. I mean, the notorious 3-pack party crew: Keith Moon, Joe Walsh, and John Belushi. And supposedly when those three would come to the party, everyone's like, "Oh no!" Of course, 2 of them are dead.
Yes.
But did Keith Moon, besides his drumming and stuff, that kind of party attitude, did that like touch you? And that's like, I want to be like that? Or
no.
Okay.
I wasn't like that. I was probably more of the quiet member of the band. I just kind of, the most fun part of it, aspect of being in the band for me, was the creative aspect. So anytime we'd come up with new songs and then we'd go into the studio and realize those songs, that was it for me. I love
that. Was your party. That was your party.
But it was fun. I think probably the beginning of the band until about in the mid 80s, touring and seeing the country and it's part of the, other parts of the world. That was pretty damn fun too. So all of that. Yeah.
I mean, Minneapolis. So how many times did you guys play with Husker Du? Like, I mean, I'm thinking about the rock bands that are really making it coming out of Minneapolis.
Yep. We would kind of sometimes co-bill, with Husker Du. And so we played like little tours, sort of in Chicago and around the Midwest. And I think there was some New York stuff that we did where we were kind of co-billed a little bit. But then what happened during that period was the tempos and the pace and the hardcore started coming in. The mosh pits, all the slam pits and all the stuff, Black Flag, all those bands. And it was kind of like, well, where do we fit in now? And so we kind of tried to fit in with our record Stink, and which was as close, I think, to kind of maybe trying to attempt hardcore as we ever.
The name itself.
Yeah, exactly. And so there was a time where, it was really nice to see, all of the rules of rock being broken down. And so you get punk, which was a very big departure from all of the bands that were up on the pedestal, all of the big rock bands,
arena bands,
unreachable things. Punk made it seem like, yes, I can do this. and then hardcore comes in, which is just 90-mile-an-hour punk, and then the ante keeps getting raised. And then I remember thinking, well, this is good because there's no rules. But then we started realizing that there were rules, very hard rules within that world.
Yeah.
That we said, well, hey, wait a second. And then it's like, if we don't play fast enough, they're not going to like us. And they start throwing stuff, and they said, well, now this is back to rules, isn't it? And so that we have to follow. And so then we rebelled, and then we played, I think we warmed up. I was just a complete, I think it might've been with Husker Du. It was more their audience and a lot of hardcore guys, and they just slam dancing. It was all, and then we just came out and started playing like Hank Williams, and
pranksters again, pranking it again.
Yeah, so that all of a sudden now that is more punk than punk because it goes against the rules, and we got shit thrown at us and we got booed, and it was like, yeah, that's the idea, right? So I hear you. The memory. So then we kind of, from that point on, we said, no, we're not going to go that direction because it's not that there wasn't cool things happening, and there was, but it just wasn't quite our avenue. Right. So.
Did you play Europe a lot? I mean, see, that's, I guess, I was smart that in 77, I first started going to Europe because they accept that you're probably going to do something different every time you come there. So I knew I had to go to Europe. I've been there 4 times this year, and I'm going back in 7 days because there's so many different kinds of things you can do there because the audience isn't expecting these frickin' rules as they might have been mid 80s to mid 90s. When they thought what they wanted. Yeah. Well, yeah. It was always more open, but did you tour Europe much, or the festivals or not?
We never did that well in Europe. We tried. We did all right in I think Holland was our best audience.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah. And then England was decent too. Once we started getting beyond that, I remember we played through Germany, and it was a decent audience. Like people came to see the show, but it was so in between songs, there was no clapping. And that might be,
which I love. I'm like, that's my favorite. I'm like, that's why I love spoken word. I hold your Pavlovian response, but that's
cool.
Just me.
And that's cool. But you get it, but we didn't get
that's
it.
Me.
Because exactly. Because we didn't understand.
Like, oops, what we do wrong?
So of course, we just thought they must hate us. They're not impressed. That's the way we took it. But
well, I like in Prague when parents bring their kids and they just stand there and watch my lips move because Czech is the place that has published every one of my books. Cool. And it's like, they just watch my lips. I'm like, are you fucking lip readers? Doesn't matter. I love it. I don't want the applause some people needed. But you know what? I'm applauding your book and I'm applauding your new record. And I think to have both released in the month of August, the hottest month of the year on this great planet, is something that might give people a bit of relief because they can sit in front of their fucking air conditioners or hand fans, as I will do, and enjoy the creation that you are blessing us with. So I want to thank you, Chris Mars, for being on the Lydian Spin.
You are so welcome. Very nice to meet you, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes,
I'm ordering your book tomorrow because I need to have that book. I was just obsessed with it. I'm like, I need to have this.
Next time we're in Minneapolis or the Twin City area, we'll reach out. I don't know how often you go out and check out music or performances, but we'll let you know.
Awesome. Please do.
Yeah.